Good morning and welcome to MedCom Benefit Solutions desktop discussions for this Tuesday, May the 12th. We are right on time at 10 a.m. I'm going to give it just a little bit more time before turning it over to Michelle, just to allow for some other people to possibly join the call. My name is Casey Hope. I am the marketing manager at MedCom Benefit Solutions. I am joined today, as always, by our wonderful and incomparable senior legal counsel, Michelle Barkey. Michelle, welcome. All right, Michelle, can you hear me? All right, we can't hear you right now, Michelle. I'm going to go ahead and do some kind of housekeeping stuff, and we'll see if we can't get those technical difficulties fixed. I know that I was talking to you a moment ago when we first joined the call, so hopefully we'll be able to get that connection going pretty soon. Just wanted to let you know, if you are not muted already, to go ahead and mute yourself, as this is a call and not necessarily a webinar. We wanted a little bit more freedom here with the ability to do that. So if you could, just to cut back on the background noise, go ahead and mute yourself. And then I will also let you know that we will be sending out the completed questions and answers after this is over. So we record this presentation or this discussion, and we send that out along with a complete list of questions and answers to all of the attendees. So I'm going to try sending the audio pin to Michelle and see if we can't get her connected again, and then hopefully get started quickly. Another thing, if you have called in and you are like listed as caller 1 through however, if you wouldn't mind, I would need your email address to send you the information. So if you would email, if you attended today and you're not sure if you are on our desktop discussion mailing list, what you can do to get on that list is email COVID-19 questions at medcombenefits.com. That's where we take our questions. So I'll definitely be gathering the information and sending out things through there. So if you send your email to me, I should be able to get you on our mailing list for desktop discussions and send you all of the information. All right, Michelle, have you been able to connect through audio yet? Can everyone hear me okay? If you want to put a message into the chat function, just so I make sure that everyone can hear me and we're not having some massive technical difficulties. All right, thank you. Yeah, I can't hear Michelle either, so I'm not sure what's going on there. We may just give her a couple of more minutes. Otherwise, I can start going over the questions and the answers that she kind of provided to me this morning, and then be able to wait for her to join when she's able. It never fails for me that I always tend to have, I think she is joining again. Michelle, are you there?
I am, Casey. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure why we're having technical difficulties, but I was just about to say it always happens at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays for me.
It does.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started, Michelle. I'll go ahead and read our first question. Do you have a summary of considerations employers should make when returning employees to work after COVID-19 leaves, such as furloughs or layoffs, etc.? Specifically concerning the pre-tax health and welfare benefits such as FSA, HRA, and HSA.
We do not have a checklist to speak, but what a great idea. And I'm also going to be talking to this individual who asked this question later on today so we can get some more information. I think we need to all have a little bit of understanding about the difference between a furlough and a layoff. Furlough usually implies that they might have had a reduction of hours, or they're not currently working, but that you expect to bring them back to work. layoff typically is a term that's usually used, not always, for terminated employees that you've had a layoff, they've been terminated, and they won't be coming back. So what I can say here is general. We do not have a checklist to speak of. If the employee was terminated and was rehired within 13 weeks, and you are an applicable large employer, then they would be a rehired employee and they would come back to where they were before with the health plan. The health plan would have to commence the first of the following month. If they were furloughed, that's a whole different story if you're an applicable large employer, because technically you cannot terminate the health coverage at that time because it really is a change of hours. Now, FSAs and HRAs are a completely different story. FSA on a furlough, the IRS has not given us any guidance that you can terminate an FSA at that time. Of course, for a layoff employee, if they terminated, then yes, there would be a termination of the FSA, and depending on whether they overspent and underspent, whether or not they would get COBRA coverage. With the FSA and the HRA, I would always recommend that we look at the plan documents to see if the intent of the employer in those plan documents. So it's not as easy as just a checkoff list. There's more to it, but it's a great idea to have a checkoff list.
Thank you, Michelle. The second question here comes with a little bit of a scenario for everyone. So as we begin to look at rehiring employees or bringing them back from furlough, is it necessary to provide an amendment? And here's the scenario. A restaurant closed 5 of its locations in March of this year due to the COVID-19 crisis. They furloughed all hourly employees in March and kept them on medical insurance for the month of April, but had to term the medical coverage as of May 1st. They just reopened 2 restaurants on Monday and are hiring some employees back. They will hire more back as the government permits, and they will open more restaurants. So what do they need to amend their documents because of this?
It all depends on actually what's in the document. It sounds like in this case that the employees were actually terminated and they're rehiring them back. If they were an applicable large employer, because we know with several restaurants potentially with the interrelationship and the number of EINs that they might have have been a control group and they were an applicable large employer. Look for the in the plan documents what it says about rehiring within 13 weeks, because that's what the document should say, that if you rehire within 13 weeks, then benefits should be offered no later than the first of the month following rehire. So again, I would just look to see what the document says about rehiring, and then we can go from there.
Makes perfect sense. All right, moving forward, we have a client's FSA plan year runs from July 1st to June 30th. They have a 90-day run out with no rollover. Assuming the national emergency ends June 1st, prior to the end of the plan year, is their run out period affected? If the national emergency ends July 31st, then they would have 60 days from July 31st, plus the 60 days that were left in the original run out. Is that correct? The breakout period, I'm sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
Yes, basically both of these scenarios would impact the breakout period, because the breakout period runs from March 1st of 2020 to 60 days past the end of the national emergency. So just pretend that period doesn't exist. The calendar has now just ignored it, so that the 60 days from the run out would start right after the end of the national emergency. Since the national emergency has not been ended yet, and the period was prior to the end of their plan year. So both of the scenarios would be affected by this breakout period, which has just now been carved out of the calendar as far as run-out periods are concerned. And then they would have the additional 60 days.
Thank you. We have clients implementing FSA and DCA programs. Many of their employees may not enroll in dependent care for the June 1st effective date, for example, because they're unable to currently take their children to daycare. When the pandemic is over and normal life resumes, would employees be allowed to enroll at that time?
You know, they would be allowed to enroll in that time because DCAP is actually very, very broad. And if there's a change of status, for an example, if now you've got a mid-year change as far as dependents are concerned, you can always do that. What we always recommend, though, is that they actually enroll in DCAP at the time of the plan year commences and put the election amount as 0. And then when there's a change because of the cost of the daycare, they can always do the change at that time. But I would enroll them at that time for a 0 amount.
Excellent, thank you. Regarding the CARES Act, can an employee terminate their DCA participation? Likewise, when return to work begins, can an employee enroll in the DCA?
Again, what we always recommend they do is that they don't terminate the DCA, they just change the election amount for the period of time that the kids are not in school or the daycares are closed. And for those months, put an election amount of 0. And then when they come back to work, or the kids come back to work, then go back to school or the daycares are open, then they can change their election amounts again to reflect that they now have a provider that's providing the care.
Okay. Are there any current concessions regarding employer filings of 1095-C with the IRS? The employer did not make the March 31st date to file electronically with the IRS, nor has the employer been able to file. Employees did receive their 1095s before March the 2nd. The delay is due to the employer's TCC code being reset. The employer had to re-register, but has not received the new valid TCC. The IRS information line for extension says there is no live support, only information through irs.gov and self-service. What are the penalty fees for not filing timely? And do you anticipate any leeway due to the declaration of a federal health disaster prior to the required filing date?
Okay. Well, first off, no, there were absolutely no concessions made for late filing of Forms 1095-C and 1094-C with the IRS or with providing the forms to the employees. So I'm really glad that they did get the forms out to the employees. In 2019, the penalty for not timely filing with the IRS is $275 per form. But if it is filed before August the 1st, then it goes down to $100 per form. The total penalty for the year for everything would be a maximum for the filing would be a maximum of $3,339,000. That being said, don't panic. There is always an appeal when this type of thing happens, and the determination is based on reasonable cause for the delayed filing. Certainly, there could be reasonable cause argued that due to the COVID, they were not able to get passwords reset by IRS or a new TCC code. And I would just make sure that the client has documented everything, keep it in a separate file, because penalties probably won't be assessed until the fall of 2022. And at that stage of the game, if people have left, you still want to be able to have a trace of what happened, the dates that they tried to contact the IRS, the steps that they took to contact the IRS, and the fact that we had COVID this year, and that has hurt the IRS as well. And again, it would be based on a reasonable cause determination. The other thing that I would have them do is potentially get some pricing from third-party vendors to do the e-filing only. I'm not saying they would have to actually go out and get it done, although it's always a good recommendation. But if they have a couple of estimates as to how much it would cost them to do that as well, and just do an affordability analysis and just say, hey, you know, but for the fact that the IRS wasn't there giving us a TCC, and this is what it would have cost us to get the filing done, and that we did it as soon as practicable once we got the TCC number. So again, there's no special concessions at this time. It will be based on reasonable cause. Document, 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 because in 2022, if the people who are here this year aren't there then, we want to be able to go back and trace the full history.
Thank you, Michelle. That's all of the questions that we had for today submitted. Just to remind you, if you have questions about anything that's going on right now in regards to COVID-19, we are here every week, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. to answer those questions. You can submit them to COVID-19 questions at medcombenefits.com. Once you do, I'll respond back and let you know that we received your question and send you the call-in information again, just in case you need that. Also, we will send out the completed questions and answers from today, as well as the recording. All of our desktop discussion recordings can be found via our YouTube channel. So if you need to go back and kind of see any of the questions or hear any of the questions and answers provided in previous sessions, we do have all 11 of our previous sessions on our YouTube channel at Medcom Benefit Solutions. Please reach out to us if you have any other questions. We are always here to help you as much as we possibly can. Thank you for taking time out of your day today to join us. Thank you, Michelle, for preparing the answers and the information for these questions. I do appreciate you being here.
And thank you, Casey, for setting this all up.
Absolutely. Once again, we will see you guys next week. Please let us know if there is any way that we at MedCom can be of assistance to you. Have a wonderful day.